Hello everyone, it's Shannon with Waffle Flower Crafts. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a festive frosted window card with the new Deck the Halls set. These are our Waffle Flower products I'll be using today. First up is the Deck the Halls combo. Comes with the Deck the Hall stamp set and the Deck the Hall matching die in the back. I'll also be using the stocking stamp set. I'll be using the present and the sentiment from that set. I'll also be using the A2 arched window die and the A2 nested domes die. The largest die in this set matches the dimensions perfectly of the arched window. I've already stamped all my images from the Deck the Hall stamp set and then those two presents, which are from the stocking stamp set, in VersaFine Onyx Black ink on watercolor paper. I have some distress inks up above here. I'm going to use these to watercolor these images in. On the right, I have this piece of plastic with a white paper underneath it so you guys can see the colors a little bit better. And I'm just smushing the ink pads down onto the plastic. And now I will zoom in here just a bit so you guys can follow along with my coloring a little bit more closely. Now before I can start painting, I need some water. I'm just going to spray some water here at the side of my palette. I don't actually spray my inks because that will dilute them too much. What I do is I take my brush, dip it in the water, and then go and pick up some ink. Sometimes I'll mix a little bit of the water with the ink using my brush, but you want to use very little water. As you can see here, I have my Distress ink colors on screen so you can follow along. This is very similar to working with watercolors. I like the Distress inks maybe a little bit better because they're very translucent. They are ink and they don't have that binder that sometimes will make watercolors kind of opaque. So I do enjoy watercoloring with these inks. I'm going to play a little bit of music and let you guys follow along as I color these images in, and I will meet you back when I'm just about done. Okay, so I am back. I'm just about done. I'm going to finish up these ornaments with a little bit of spiced marmalade just to add a little shadow at the center of the ornament. And once I finish coloring these, I'll be done with my watercoloring. I'm now going to move on to stamping some more images that I need to create a garland for the front of my card. I'm going to grab the sprigs of pine or evergreen from the Deck the Hall stamp set, mount them on an acrylic block, ink them up in Distress Ink peeled paint, and then do a partial inking of these sprigs in Lucky Clover. This creates a pretty gradation on the surface, which kind of matches the Christmas tree on the inside. And I do want to point out that I clean these stamps in between stamping so I don't cross-contaminate my ink pads. To save some time, I went ahead and die cut all these colored images with the matching dies off camera. I also die cut 2 windows using the A2 arch window die out of 110-pound white cardstock, and then I die cut this dome out of vellum using the largest die from the A2 nested domes die set. I also created my A2 card base. This is a side folding card base, and then I stamped on the inside with a sentiment from the stocking stamp set in VersaFine Onyx Black. I'm now taking the second largest die from the A2 nested domes die set, and I'm going to cut this dome out of the front of my card base. I'm just going to center it here on the front, and then I will grab little pieces of micropore tape and tape this die in place so it doesn't slide around when I run it through my die cut machine. Now that I've run my card through my die cutting machine, I can remove some of the tape, pop out my die, and this will create the window or the opening so we can see through our window and into our scene on the interior of our card. Now we're going to create our window. So I have one of the white cardstock arch window die cuts here. I flipped it over and now I'm adding some glue to the back. I'm going to glue this directly onto our vellum. This vellum dome was cut with the largest die from the A2 nested domes die set, and it fits perfectly behind our arch window die cut. Now we're going to move on to creating the frosted window look. I have some white embossing powder. I'm just going to pinch it with my fingers and then rub my fingers together to sprinkle it over the surface of my window. This is the front of my window, and I'm sprinkling it directly onto the vellum. Some of it will get onto the cardstock window panes, but we don't have to worry about that. It won't heat set when we use our heat gun. And I'm just trying to focus this embossing powder on the edges of the window, just like where the snow would collect if it was really snowing. Now I'm going to heat set this embossing powder. It's really important to note here that you want to heat set from the bottom. Don't have your heat gun coming from the top. You will blow all your embossing powder off. Don't ask me how I know, but you definitely want to go from the bottom. The added bonus of this is that it won't, because we're coming from the bottom with our heat source, we don't actually get any of that embossing powder that's still on the white cardstock heat set, so it just kind of falls off here when I just brush it off with my brush if any lingering pieces. So now we just have this beautiful frosted look. The embossing powder is only on the vellum, and it looks very clean, and it has a really fun snowy feel. Of course, I couldn't leave well enough alone. I decided to add some snowflakes to this window as well. So I grabbed these 2 snowflakes from the Deck the Hall stamp set, mounted them on acrylic blocks, put down some anti-static powder first, then I inked them up in Versamark ink and then stamped them on the window. And now I'm going to pour on some more white embossing powder. You'll see it just sticks to where I stamped those snowflakes, and this is a nice additional detail, I think, on this frosted window. Now I will heat set this embossing powder. You can now go to the front with your heat source this time. You don't have to worry about the embossing powder blowing off because it's sticking to the ink. Now we have all our card components finished, so we can now assemble our card. The first thing I'm going to do is adhere the frosted window to the front of the card base. I'm going to apply the glue on the very edge of this window, and this edge will overlap with the front of the card, so I'll have it nice and secure. So just flip it over here and then stick it right down. Once that glue sets a little, I'll open it up here and I will glue my second arch window to the interior. This just cleans up the card a little bit. It just has a nice finished polished look and it's very easy to do. So I'm just going to add some more liquid adhesive and then I will flip this over and glue it directly to the back side of the front of our card. Now that our window's all complete, we can now move on to our images and start creating our scene. I'm going to start by doing a little ink blending. I have a Distress Oxide here, it's Wild Honey. I'm just going to blend a little bit here on the interior of the card. This just adds a little bit of warmth and life to the scene. Now I'm going to arrange my images, and then once I have them in place, I will glue them down with some liquid adhesive. I'm going to start with this cute girl and her cat. Then I will move on to the Christmas tree. Then I will do this star that she's going to hold in her hand that she's placing on top of the tree. And then I will lift up the bottom of the tree and tuck underneath it the presents from the stocking stamp set. And then I'll grab a little bit more glue just to glue that base down in place. Now I'm going to move on to creating my garland. So I have my two ornaments, my two little stars that I'm going to put on top of my ornaments, and 8 of those sprigs and I stamped all these earlier. I'm going to arrange 3 of those sprigs together in a little bunch using my liquid glue to kind of hold it together. I will put some on one of the sprigs and then I will place the 2 on top of it. Now I'm going to do another bunch of 3. This is going to be mirrored, so this will be on the other side of the garland. Again, using my liquid glue on one of the sprigs and then gluing the other 2 directly on top. Now I'm moving on to my ornaments. I'm going to glue them to the sprigs. So I put a little bit of glue on each of the little bunches of sprigs and then I am placing my ornaments down. And I'm going to overlap my second ornament here, so now they are clustered together. Now I'm going to move on to those stars or ribbons. I'm going to put a little bit of glue at the top of each ornament and then stick those directly on top. And then I have 2 more sprigs that I'm going to add at the very bottom. I flipped my garland over here and just placed some glue on the back side and then stuck down those 2 final pine sprigs. To add a little dimension, I'm going to grab some foam tape here and add it to the back side of the garland. This will, like I said, add some dimension, but it'll also kind of hold everything in place a little bit better too. And then I will remove the backing, and then I will grab the front of my card and just place it right there on the window. And that will complete our card. I'll hold it up to the camera so you can get a better look at that frosted window. I love the snow and the snowflakes. It's such a fun wintry feel, and you can kind of look through that window and see the scene inside. You can't really tell what it is, and then you open up the card and then you're greeted with this beautiful warm Christmas scene. It's such a fun card, and what a delight I think the recipient will receive when they get this in the mail. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you want any more information on the products I use, please visit Waffle Flower, and you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Thanks for watching!